Chapter 28, Library. The library assistant looked up at me from her desk when I walked in, and then turned back to her computer. I walked around the library and found Bex in the history section. She was sitting at a table with her head hanging over a book. When she saw me, she quickly closed it. "You got it?" she whispered. I took the phone case out from my jacket, and as I sat down and slid it across the table, her face seemed to relax. Claudia clearly had some kind of hold over her. The whole thing stank. "Okay, now it's time for your side of the bargain. Tell me what you know about Ammon Watsit," I said. She stared at me again and then checked all around before she began. "Right, listen up and concentrate, because I'm only going to say this once." I nodded. Ronald Amundsen was a Norwegian explorer. In 1911, he led an expedition to try to be the first people to reach the South Pole. His team did it. They got there first. It was an incredible achievement. Now she said it, I kind of remembered seeing something about it on TV once. There'd been a black and white photograph of some men in the snow wearing thick fur clothing. I remember wondering if the fur clothes had been warm enough. Maybe that piece of woolen fabric had something to do with it. "Did something really happen to Amundsen at the South Pole?" I said, swallowing. "No. They returned from the pole okay. But a few years later, Amundsen was part of a rescue team who went out to the Arctic to help and try and find a missing airship." She paused, but I already had a feeling that this wasn't going to end well. "Amundsen's plane never made it," she said. "He and the crew were never found." I shuddered. "Just like the Mary Celeste," I said. "Another disappearance." Bex narrowed her eyes at me. "You know about the ghost ship, then?" she said, and I nodded. "The ship was found adrift in the ocean, and all of the crew members were missing," I said. "No one knows what happened to them. It's a mystery will never be solved." Bex popped a little bubble with her gum. "I read about it in a book," I added. She grinned at me. "See, you don't know a phone or a computer after all," she said. My mind was buzzing. That was 2 disappearances connected to the egg. The Mary Celeste and Roald Amundsen, the Arctic explorer. "Why all the questions?" she asked. I was trying to think of a reason for asking, but I decided just to tell her the truth. Part of it, anyway. "I've got a friend who has a collection of old things, but he's not sure what they are. I said I'd try and find out for him." "What sort of thing?" she said, shuffling in her seat. Well, there's a little square of thick fabric. I think it's a piece of the sail for the Mary Celeste," I said. Bex snorted. "You have got to be kidding me." I smiled at her shocked face. "No, it's all there in the cabinet in the lounge," I said proudly. "There's a finger from a glove which I think might have belonged to Amundsen, and someone's handkerchief, but I can't remember their name, and a silver button belonging to someone else." She stared at me for a bit. "Do you think I could come and see them? I might be able to tell you who they are." I grinned. "Yes, come after school. You'll love it. There's all sorts of old stuff in there. I bet you'll know everything is, because you know so much about history and that—" Her face fell, and she looked at me weirdly. "I mean, you look like someone who knows a lot about history." She stood up and put her bag over her shoulder. "Look, don't tell anyone about this, will you?" "What, the phone case?" I asked. "Well, obviously that," she said, doing a famous eye roll again. "But also the bit about me being in here, in the library. Keep that to yourself, all right?" I realised that for this version of Bex, being seen in a library would be incredibly embarrassing. I shrugged and gave her Reggie's address. As she left to go back to school, I smiled to myself. My sister was going to help me get back